Well, as already introduced, I am Professor S.S. Mane from Kolhapur Institute of Technologies, College of Engineering, Kolhapur. And as a part of this online webinar series, I'll be discussing the topic materials for motorsport vehicles. Let me start with the first slide. Well, as you are all aware, the auto vehicle manufacturing focus areas are basically the materials, the design, and manufacturing and assembly process. Well, out of these three, we will be focusing today on the materials. So today's agenda is regarding materials. I believe already one presentation on design has taken place. And as far as manufacturing is concerned, it will be taken up in the next session tomorrow or day after. So today's agenda, as I said, is materials. This is the details about the agenda for today's presentation. I'll first go through some introductory slides, followed by development of materials for frames. Okay. Uh, so the candidate materials as far as frames are concerned are steels, aluminum alloys, and composites. So we will be focusing on these three materials. And major part of my presentation today is as a kind of material or a part which is representing the auto vehicles. We'll be focusing more on frames, but then we'll also be taking up uh, the discussion on other auto parts, wherein various ferrous alloys like steels and cast irons, the parts which are made by using ferrous alloys, aluminum alloys, plastics, polymer, elastomers, and fiber reinforced plastics will be considered. And then I'll conclude it by going through some slides regarding selection, the criteria of weight and cost, and the way ahead. So this is going to be my agenda today. So I think let us start with the introduction part of it. So coming to materials that are used for used in auto industry, not only in auto industry but for all engineering components, these materials can be classified into metallics, which comprise of metals and alloys. Then we have plastics and polymers, then ceramics, and a combination of these three basic materials, that is either metallics, plastics and polymers, or ceramics, gives rise to a fourth set of materials called as composites. So we can have composites between metallic materials and plastics and polymers, or composites between metallic materials and ceramics, and composite between plastics and polymers and ceramics. So these are the three types of composites. As far as the engineering industry is concerned, auto industry is concerned, out of these four types, particularly when it comes to auto components, ceramics are the least used materials. So we won't be talking much about ceramics today. But then metallic materials, plastics and polymers, and composites between all these three basic engineering components, materials, will be the materials that we'll be discussing. Going further, I would like to speak slightly at the beginning regarding the metallic materials being the most widely used materials for various applications in auto industry. Okay, metallic materials comprise of both metals and alloys, but as you are all aware, it is very rare that pure metals are used for engineering applications or auto industry applications. So it's basically the alloys. Now, these alloys are classified into two major types. One is ferrous alloys, the second one is non-ferrous alloys. Amongst ferrous alloys, we have two basic uh, types. One is steels and the second one is cast irons. Steels are further classified into what are known as plain carbon steels and alloy steels. Plain carbon steels are again classified into low carbon, medium carbon, and high carbon steels, whereas alloy steels comprise of a long list of materials. For example, we have high strength low alloy steels, high strength steels, stainless steels, tool steels, mar aging steels, high temperature steels, etc. When it comes to cast irons, we have what are known as white cast irons, gray cast irons, AG iron, malleable cast iron, and then these newly modified types of cast irons known as compact graphite cast iron, austempered cast iron, ductile cast iron, etc. And then, of course, apart from these ferrous alloys, we have non-ferrous alloys comprising of aluminum-based alloys, magnesium-based alloys, copper-based alloys, tin-based alloys, titanium-based alloys, etc. Well, whatever I have shown in red are conventional materials which have been used for long, that is low carbon steels and gray cast irons. But the ones which I have shown in yellow, that is high strength low alloy steels, high strength steels, compact graphite cast irons, austempered uh, compact graphite cast irons, austempered ductile cast irons, aluminum based alloys, and magnesium based alloys are basically alloys which have uh, now come into the fore because they satisfy so many different needs of modern auto industry. So yeah, the older conventional alloys, that is low carbon steels and gray cast irons, and the newly, you can say, developed alloys, which have now become very much a part and parcel of auto industry, those which have been shown in yellow. Okay. This I thought I will share with you in the beginning because maybe you will follow the things that I'll be discussing properly once you are aware of all these things. The types of materials, the metallic materials, that is alloys that are used for in varying applications in auto industry. Uh, Now, let us talk about the selection of materials for auto applications. What are the factors which are really taken into consideration by selecting different materials for auto applications? Properties, okay. So various properties, mechanical properties, which satisfy the operating conditions of the component. So this is the first and most important factor, okay. Then the second factor is cost. Economic realities taken into account. We can't select any material irrespective of cost. We have to take into consideration cost, which is a very important factor. Then come the environmental issues, not only during the usage, but right from the stage of manufacturing till the stage of disposal. Then we have the factor wherein recyclable uh, of the materials that are used, that also becomes an important factor, whether the material can be recycled or not. The next factor is weight reduction. Okay, so whether by using a particular material as against the one which was used earlier, whether there is possibility of weight reduction. This is a very important factor when it comes to auto industry, because as you all are aware, weight has a direct implication on fuel consumption. So this is the next important factor. Going further, when it comes to auto industry, comfort becomes a very important factor. So the material that we use, whether it's able to reduce noise level, systems for door mirrors, installation, air conditioning, power operated tailgates and mobile components. All these different components that are used, whether they are able to give that kind of comfort to the person who is riding a vehicle, for example. And then, of course, safety becomes very important. It is necessary to reinforce the car body and provide sufficient braking system and tracking system. And therein, the importance of safety is really to be taken into account. And now, as we all are aware, when it comes to auto industry, there is regular change or launch of new model. Okay, so for such new models, whatever the change in the design, the change in the material would require. uh, okay, okay, would require shorter lead times for designing and manufacturing. So we should select such materials which will be able to overcome the requirements of short lead times, that is both in design and manufacture. So once again, the factors that are important for selecting of materials for auto applications are the properties, which I specifically mean mechanical properties, the cost, environmental issues, whether the material can be recycled or not, whether it is going to reduce the weight or not, then the comfort factor, the safety factor, and as to whether the material that is used can help us in reducing the lead times when it comes to design and manufacture. So these are the important factors when we come to selecting of materials for auto industry. Now, a design engineer, particularly for example, when he takes into consideration various candidate materials, what he would look into is the material index. Okay, an example as far as material index is, if a rod, for example, is pulled in tension, the specific modulus or modulus divided by density, okay, will determine the best material. Apart from material index, we have what is known as merit index, which comprises of the function of design, adequacy, producibility, compatibility, reliability, and cost effectiveness. Then we have another parameter known as structural index, stiffness limited design, shape factors, machinability, mechanically efficient shapes, and specific properties, that is mechanical, physical, and chemical properties. Out of which, when it comes to material, it is a material index, structural index, and specific properties, which are the important factors when it comes to selection of materials by a design engineer. Okay. Now, let us take an overview of selection of materials for automobile components. The most important motivation when it comes to change of materials, okay, in auto industry is cost reduction, and also whether or not there is demand for change. Okay. However, such changes at present or in near future will mainly concern the ecological aspects. This is the motivation, the most important motivation for change. Consumption reduction, okay, weight reduction, low emission of pollutants, and recycling of materials. So if you take a kind of overview, if we really want to change a material, then the motivation for changing a material as compared to an earlier material are these factors. Okay, ecological aspects, consumption reduction, whether we can reduce the weight, okay, emissions, whether by using a new material, the weight can be, the emissions can be reduced, and whether the material, the new material can be recycled or not. So these are the motivation for changing the material from whatever the earlier materials. Now let me just quote a statement made by Henry Ford in the year 1923. As early as in the year 1923, what Henry Ford said is, saving even a few pounds of a vehicle weight, okay, saving even a few pounds of a vehicle's weight would mean that they would go faster and consume less fuel. Reducing weight involves reducing materials, which in turn means reducing cost as well. So you can imagine as early as in the year 1923, Henry Ford made this visionary statement. This, of course, is true not only for conventional vehicles but also for sport vehicles. In fact, as to whether uh, the change in the material or reduction in weight, okay, as far as the reduction in weight is concerned, it definitely is going to be a most important criteria for motorsport vehicles, because speed is one of the important aspects of whatever the selection is made, material selection is made for motorsport vehicles. Okay, let me just now go to the next slide, wherein we are trying to understand what are the trends, okay, for auto components and particularly motorsport vehicles. Now, the current trends by manufacturers is to strive to reduce total mass. Okay, so this is not only for conventional autos, but also the sports vehicles. So the solutions that they are trying to find out is to find materials with good mechanical properties, which may be of high density alloys, because of which we can have thin walled structures. Okay, so when it comes to high density alloys, the good mechanical properties by these high density alloys will help us reduce the wall thickness and thereby the weight. And the second solution for reducing weight is increasing the content of components made by lightweight materials. Okay, so whether it is non-ferrous alloys, which are aluminum and magnesium based, extensively used in motorsport vehicles, or plastics, elastomers, and composites. So these materials are definitely weighing far less as compared to ferrous vehicles or high density alloys, and thereby they can help reduce mass or weight of the vehicles, because of which various aspects of not only conventional vehicles but also motorsports vehicles will be definitely enhanced. Now, when it comes to either thin walled structures of high density alloys or these lightweight materials, what are the kind of materials we are looking at? When it comes to steels, for example, as against conventional mild steels, we are the newly developed alloys are, for example, trip steel, DP steel, high strength low alloy steel, etc. DP is dual phase steel. When it comes to cast irons, as against the conventional gray cast iron, we have Austempered ductile iron, okay, Austempered gray cast iron, and Austempered compact or vermicular gray iron. So these Austempered alloys have better mechanical properties as compared to conventional gray cast iron, because of which the wall thickness of the material can be reduced. And then when it comes to non-ferrous alloys, as already mentioned, aluminum and magnesium based alloys, which are of precipitation hardenable grades. This is a heat treatment process called as precipitation hardening, because of which the mechanical properties can be enhanced. And as such, we can have reduced weight. And we also have newly developed high strength plastics, elastomers, composites, metal foams, etc., because of which there can be substantial reduction in weight. So these are the trends in auto industry. Okay, whether it is high density alloys or the non-ferrous and other materials like plastics, elastomers, and composites, we want to reduce weight, of course, not compromising the mechanical properties. We want to reduce weight. Okay, and these are the trends you can say. Now, coming to future technological demands in auto industry. Okay, so what are the future technological demands? One is fuel efficiency. Second one is cost effectiveness. The third one is emission reduction. The fourth one is innovative features, safety and durability, and also, of course, automotive sports vehicle, speed. And in all these different demands in auto industry, motorsports vehicles, materials can greatly contribute. Okay, the new materials, the newly developed materials can greatly contribute in helping achieve all these technological, future technological demands in auto industry. So let us go further. But at the same time, uh, while we want to have better fuel efficiency, cost effectiveness, better speed, safety and durability, etc., etc., there is a demand for safety, performance, and luxury, due to which we require car bodies of better rigidity, engines which are more powerful, structures which are heavier, and all this contributes to increasing weight. Okay, so we have to at one end try to achieve these technological demands, but at the same time, the customer demands. Okay, when I say customer demands, in case of auto vehicles, it is the person who is driving. Okay, so uh, this is, you can say, contrary to what uh, the, the the reduction in weight is concerned, the basic requirement. Okay. Now let us take an overview of material distribution uh, over the years. Okay. To start off, somewhere in the year 1906, during those days, you would be surprised to know that wood was the basic material used for making the frame. Okay, and a lot of aluminum was also used during those days. But then, uh, subsequently, by the year 1912, let us say, there was increase in the use of ferrous alloy, which was basically low carbon steels, reduction in the use of wood as the material for making frames, and there are some other materials that were used. So over the years, again, uh, the use of low carbon ferrous alloys continued, but gradually the use of plastics and polymers and composites that increased. And again, aluminum got reintroduced through various new alloys of aluminum that were discovered and other materials. But if you see today, presently, as compared to, let us say, somewhere in the 70s, the use of ferrous alloys has decreased. Okay, but this has been taken over by increase in use of high to mid strength steels. Okay, what are these high and mid strength steels? We'll see it afterwards. Then, of course, more usage of polymers and composites, and of course, aluminum alloys. And what could be the future trends? In future, the usage of conventional low carbon steels uh, will be further reduced. There will be more and more usage of high and mid strength steels and plastics and polymers. Aluminum alloys and magnesium alloys also will pick up. Okay. So this trend, you can see, is mainly focused for reduction of weight of the vehicles. There's another slide wherein we compare the materials used in vehicle design, past, present, and future. So when I say past, it is 1977. When I say present, it is today. And when I say future, somewhere in the year 2035. So what we see is, when it comes to conventional steel, which is now to the extent of around 70%, would come down to less than 20%. And high and mid-strength steels, which is presently as low as roughly around, sorry, which was as low as roughly around 5% in 1977, would rise to something like 20% in 2035. So likewise, in all these materials, different materials, what you can see is gradually there is reduction in conventional steels and increase in all the other materials that are used in auto industry. Uh, so again, another slide which is a pie chart showing use of different materials in a typical vehicle. Steel 53%, then plastics and polymers 14%, and cast iron 3%, aluminum 5%, etc., etc. And when it comes to what kind of material that is, rather the parts that occupy the maximum weight of the vehicle, body in white, the weight that it takes is 36%, engine 13%, other body 14%, chassis 24%, drivetrain 10%, and all others put together 3%. Okay, so this is how all these different parts of the body contribute to the weight of the vehicle. So, as I just now mentioned earlier, light weighing is going to be the most important uh, aspect as far as vehicles are concerned in the near future, for which we will be using high strength steels and cast irons, high strength cast irons, aluminum alloys, aluminum and magnesium alloys, plastics and polymers and composites. So our focus is on this. Of course, apart from lightweight materials, lightweight design, lightweight production, and lightweight forms are important aspects to be considered, but that is not the focus area of our discussion today. And what it says here is reduction of 100 kg of weight in a vehicle leads to reduction in consumption of, let us say, fuel by 0.31 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay, so all these various parameters that I will mention here help us to understand the significance of
hello. I hope you're back again. So it's all lightweight materials. Okay, we are focusing upon. Our presentation subsequently will include all these important lightweight materials. Now there is another important slide here which we can see, and what we have compared here is if you consider low carbon steels which are used conventionally earlier for frame structures, mainly for frame structures, and in as against these mild steels and low carbon steels, if you use high strength steels, okay, the weight reduction is going to be 15 to 25%. Instead of high strength steels, if you use glass fiber composites, weight reduction is going to be 25 to 35%. If you use aluminum alloys, the weight reduction is going to be 40 to 50%. If you use magnesium based alloys, weight reduction is going to be 55 to 60%. And ultimately the carbon fiber composites, weight reduction is going to be 55 to 60%. So this is the basic motivation. This is the reason why the low carbon steels, which were conventionally used for making frames earlier, have been replaced, or we are trying to replace them by all these different materials. So this is the trend from top to bottom. So we initially started with use of high strength steels, achieved some weight reduction. We in between, glass fiber composites were also used, because of which there was further weight reduction, aluminum alloys, magnesium alloys, and presently carbon fiber composites. Now it doesn't mean that we have totally changed the material from low carbon steels to this. We are still using low carbon steels. We are still using high strength steels. We are still using all these different materials. But then there are limitations to some of these materials, whether they can be used or not for a particular application. And therefore, all these different materials help achieve the weight reduction together. That's the trend, as you can see here. Okay. This is another slide which helps us understand one important aspect of material selection, that is weight, and we can see how the density of different materials. Okay, so if you see steel, the earlier conventionally used material, the density is 7.9 grams per cc. Okay, then if you come to aluminum, the density is 2.7 grams per cc, and lastly carbon fiber composites, the density is 1.3 grams per cc. So these materials, okay, have equal or better. Okay, so some of the aluminum alloys have equal mechanical properties as compared to steel, whereas carbon fiber composites have better mechanical properties as compared to steel. But at the same time, the density is reduced to such a great extent. Okay, so you can see that the density reduction is almost the density is almost 20% of that of steel when it comes to carbon fiber, and aluminum, of course, 1/3 the density of steel. So this is one thing which we all should remember as to why there is this motivation for change in materials is concerned. Okay, now apart from the density or weight of the material, the other important factor is the cost. Okay, so here what we see is though steel was the densest material, it is also the cheapest of all these three important materials. So if you compare steel, aluminum alloys, and let us say carbon fiber composites. Okay, so steel is the cheapest, aluminum castings or aluminum sheets are more costlier, and then when it comes to carbon fiber composites, they are the costliest. Okay, so it has to be a kind of blend between the weight and the cost and the properties that help us to decide which material is suitable for a specific application in auto industry. So, so this is the end of the introduction part of my presentation, and now we go to the important material, rather part of a component, the frames basically. Okay. Now, when it comes to frames, body in white and chassis and whatever, three important candidate materials are steels and alloy steels, aluminum alloys, and composites. So let us take one by one steels, alloy steels, aluminum alloys, and composites, and see as to what are these different types of steels, alloy steels, aluminum alloys, and composites, and their applications in auto industry, particularly where we are talking about frames now. Okay. Now, when it comes to frames or chassis or body in white, okay, what are the various factors or design requirements? Okay, economic context and analysis of performance by weight. This is the first important factor. Commitment to strengths and weight that should be achieved in alternate materials that are available, that is steel, aluminum, plastics, and composites. That's the second factor. Good surface quality and formability, and free from surface defects and irregularities. This is the third factor. So as we all can see, vehicles, you want them to have a very good finish. Surface quality is also important. Okay. Then good elastic properties so that they can be manufactured. Okay. Thickness. Okay. What kind of thickness can be formed using a particular material? Ability to absorb energy. Okay. That is impact energy, or the side impact and the front impact energy, how much energy it can absorb, the mechanical strength, and weldability. So these are some of the important factors. And because of these factors, whether it is steel or alloy steel or aluminum or composites are the major candidate materials for making the frames. Now, apart from these basic design requirements, there are some other requisites for the selection of materials. Uh, the materials selected should be able to protect the occupants, that is the safety, provide positive driving experience, that confidence of positive driving experience. It should be able to react to road loads, shocks and vibrations, provide comfort to the person who is sitting inside, and provide attachment points to other components of vehicles. So it should be able to get form, uh, welded or attached together. We should have that particular property in that particular material, so that it is compatible with other materials and they can be joined together. Okay. So after this, let us just go through some slides showing how historically the materials used for frames have changed. So as I mentioned earlier in one of the slides, the first vehicles that were produced, they used wooden frames. In 20s, uh, the first introduction of steels and aluminum sheets was introduced. Uh, in 30s and 40s, monocoque bodies and rigid shapes came into existence, which are all made up of steel, of course. In 50s, high rate of production, okay, was the major factor. Somewhere in 60s, the glass was introduced as a material for vehicle frames. In 70s, uh, reduction of steel content and increase in light weight materials, that is aluminum based alloys, plastics and polymers got introduced. In 80s, new design goals got introduced. In 90s, lightweight materials were introduced in the vehicles, and there was in 2000 and onwards, there was further emphasis given to weight reduction and weight distribution. So this is the historical, you can say, how historically the material for frames changed. Okay. We are, of course, more concerned regarding the sport vehicles. And I believe all the participants for this particular webinar are either participants who are going to take part in SAE FE-Cycle or SAE Baha, wherein an all-terrain vehicle is produced, and SAE Supra, which is very close to the Formula One cars. But let me tell you one thing at the outset. Whatever are the trends in materials as far as conventional vehicles are concerned are the same. The trends in the sports vehicles are also the same. What I believe is in FE-Cycle, SAE FE-Cycle, the students will be concentrating on using of lighter materials, as also in case of SAE Supra. But in case of SAE Baha, I would be, I think the students will more be concentrating on stronger and tougher materials. The safety will be more important aspect when it comes to SAE Baha, all-terrain vehicles. So let us go further. Now these three, you can say, materials which we have considered as candidate materials for production of frames: aluminum alloys, steels, and carbon fiber composites. If you compare their stiffness and stiffness against weight, you can see that how this particular stiffness, that is Young's modulus, varies from material to material. This is 69 for aluminum, 200 for steel. And when it comes to carbon fiber of different moduluses, the carbon fibers are of different moduluses. The conventional common modulus, improved modulus, and highest modulus. You can see how the stiffness is better and better when it comes to carbon fiber. But if you compare stiffness against weight, now you may feel that steel and this highest of moduluses of carbon fiber, they have equal properties. But when you compare it against stiffness against weight, you can see how good this carbon fiber material is. Okay. Now, this is in case of two-direction carbon fiber composite. But if you go further and see as to how in one direction carbon fiber composites compare with aluminum and steel, you can see that there's a small mistake here. This is not two direction, this is one direction. Okay, please make this correction, or rather I'll make this correction and tell you. So this is one direction carbon fiber, okay, of common modulus, improved modulus, and highest modulus. You'll see that it compares much better when it comes to stiffness versus weight. Okay, and this I think we have already mentioned how carbon fiber composites have a better ranking when it comes to density as compared to, let us say, aluminum alloys and steels. Okay. So let us now discuss about the first alternate material for sports vehicle, that is steels and high strength steels. So what are these steels and high strength steels that are used as material for frames? The earlier conventional low strength plain carbon steels. Then we have the conventional high strength steels. Then we have first generation advanced high strength steels and ultra advanced high strength steels. The second generation AHSS and UHSS, and the third generation AHSS and UHSS. What are these first, second, and third generation AHSS and UHSS steels are that we'll see in subsequent you can say slides. Now, what are the advantageous features of using steel? They are strong, they are affordable, they can be engineered to meet the needs of crash safety and performance of the vehicle, and they have got good weldability. Okay, this is very important, good weldability. And what are the drawbacks? Okay, the high density and weight is a drawback when it comes to steels. Poor corrosion resistance. This is another factor that worries the use of steels. You have to take so many precautions for seeing that the steel bodies do not corrode. You have to coat them or paint them. And when it comes to advanced high-speed steels and ultra-advanced high-speed steels, the post-processing technology and its understanding is one thing which is the major drawback when it comes to these types of steels. Okay, and these steels, that is AHSS and UHSS, they also have this problem of hydrogen embrittlement. Okay, so these are the types, the advantages and drawbacks of use of steels and high strength steels. Now, the conventional low strength steels are of two types: the interstitial free IF steel and mild steel. Okay, and we can see their properties. Okay, the yield strength, the tensile strength, and percentage elongation. This percentage elongation is an important factor because when it comes to manufacturing of different parts using these different steels, the ductility, okay, and the malleability, which is you can say evaluated by this particular property of percentage elongation, is important. So these low strength steels have been used conventionally for a long time for making auto bodies, chassis, frame members, panels, brackets, and parts with complex bending and drawing. Okay, so these were the earlier steels, you can say. Of that, definitely mild steel. Now, they were gradually taken over by the conventional high-speed steels, of which one important example is high-strength low alloy steels. Now, these high-strength low alloy steels are basically mild steels which have been added with very, very small amounts of various alloying elements like aluminum, chromium, and vanadium. The cost doesn't increase much, okay? But you can see the increase in properties, okay? They are very, very similar to mild steels, but you can see that the yield strength has, you can say, if not double, almost doubled. The tensile strength is almost 1.5 to 2 times, and there isn't much reduction in the ductility, okay? So the mild steels were uh, replaced by high strength low alloy steels in between, particularly for parts wherein energy absorption becomes an important aspect, okay? So the chases, the brackets and panels, for example, okay, the bumper part. Then we come to the first generation advanced high strength steels and ultra high strength steels, wherein we have two important types: dual phase steels and trans induced trip steels. Okay, so you can see there is further increase in the strength, but the elongation factor is still stalled. Okay, there isn't much improvement in elongation. You can say either it is reduced or it is as good as mild steels or high strength low alloy steels. But the second generation advanced and uh, ultra advanced high speed steels, which comprises of this very important material, austenitic stainless steels and twinning induced twip steel, not only the mechanical properties, but percentage elongation, the malleability and ductility also has increased. So they can be formed better, and uh, they also have good mechanical properties. Okay, so we have these second generation steels, and then again these are the third generation steels, wherein there is tremendous further increase in the mechanical properties, but uh, the ductility is not as good as the second generation steels. Okay, so you can see all these different applications for the first generation, second generation, and third generation steels. Okay, so this is how the conventional steels have been replaced by high strength steels. Now, the advantage of using these high strength steels is there is tremendous weight reduction. Okay, the cross sectional area of the component, for example, okay, that can be tremendously reduced. The pipes that are used, for example, they can be of lower diameter pipes as compared to the conventional mild steel, for example, which was used earlier. So if you compare the uh, weight and the diameter of the tubes, for example, of mild steels which are used conventionally, and these first generation, second generation, and third generation uh, advanced and ultra high speed, high strength steels, their mechanical properties and their um, uh, ductility helps reduce weight to a great extent. Okay, so this has been the advantage, and these are the developments as far as the steel materials are concerned. Okay, this is another slide which shows uh, the all these different materials that I mentioned, and on y-axis we have elongation, uh, and on x-axis we have strength. And what you see here is that uh, ductility and strength, they don't uh, uh, go in hand. In the sense, if there is increase in strength that is achieved by using a steel, uh, the elongation, the ductility goes on reducing. Okay, this was the case when it came to the first generation uh, advanced high speed steels, but the second generation advanced uh, high speed steels, high strength steels, which comprise of austenite based steels, they not only have better strength but better ductility. Okay, and the third generation, they are trying to compromise ductility to some extent, but they want better improvement in the mechanical properties. Okay, so this was the earlier conventional steels. Then we came to the high strength low alloy steels and the first generation advanced high speed steels, sorry, high strength steels, wherein though there was increase in mechanical properties, the ductility decreased. And then we came to the second generation steels, wherein not only the strength but ductility, that is percentage elongation, were improved, and the compromise as far as the third generation advanced and ultra uh, high strength steels, wherein we are trying to compromise between ductility and strength. So this is the future as far as the steel material of steel is concerned in auto industries. I hope you understand all these important aspects about the developments. uh, you just go through this particular slide, which is again, I mean, the same details of what I mentioned here in a different way. I'll just take a pause for a sip of water. You can understand. Uh, so this is mild steel, for example. The yield strength between 270 to 390, and the latest ultra high strength steels, the yield strength is as high as minimum is 800. Okay, and then again we can see all these different types of steels, dual phase steels, high strength low alloy steels, reforce, that is uh, mild steels which have been added with phosphorus, dual phase steels. Okay, uh, so the mechanical properties have been ever increasing, and this increase in mechanical properties has helped us in reducing the weight of the vehicles. Just let me have a sip of water. Uh, I have an interesting case study here. This was shared by one of a group of us, college students, who took part in Baha competition a few years back, and the materials that they considered for making the frame of the all-terrain vehicle for SAE Baha was this AISI 1018 steel, which is basically mild steel containing low percentage of carbon. Okay, and they also considered a second candidate material, that is AISI 4130, which is basically uh, low carbon steel in which chromium and molybdenum are added to increase the strength. Okay, you can see the properties of these two materials here uh, when it comes to these two steels. Elastic modulus are almost the same. Bending stiffness was almost double, or you can say at least 1.5 times. Wasn't much change as far as elongation is concerned, or you can say better elongation. Bending strength was better, yield strength was better. So this was uh, taken to be a better material as compared to mild steel. Okay, so they went in and used AISI 4130 as against AISI, that is mild steel, and they also did this um, analysis. I think in one of your discussions yesterday or day before yesterday, the structural analysis was one of the uh, topics that was covered, and these were the results they obtained. Okay, this just I thought I'll just share this case study with you. So how steels are still a major material when it comes to manufacturing of steel. Okay. Now we come to the second candidate material that is used in making of frames in sports vehicle, that is aluminum alloys. So what are these aluminum alloys that are used for making frames, okay, in sports vehicle? We basically use aluminum magnesium alloys, This is 5000 series. Aluminum magnesium silicon alloys, which is 6000 series, and aluminum zinc magnesium alloys, which is 7000 series. So that is specifications. When I say series, it is basically the specifications. Now, what are the advantages of using aluminum alloys? Okay, it is lightweight and equal strength, as you can say, as compared to steels. Good corrosion resistance. You don't have to do the kind of care that you have to take for steels as far as corrosion is concerned. Good formability. Okay, it is very easily formed into different shapes, extruded, rolled, drawn, etc. It is recyclable and easy, and it is easy, and it has got low manufacturing cost. It is easy to manufacture and has got low cost of manufacturing as compared to steels. What are the drawbacks? This is as compared to steels, okay, when it comes to the strength, but strength to weight ratio, we are again considering, which is an advantage. Limited room temperature formability. We have to slightly heat it to higher temperatures. Difficult to join, that is weldability is lower, and difficult to repair. That is once it gets damaged or broken, for example, it will be difficult to weld it together as compared to steels. Okay, so these are the limitations of use of aluminum alloys, but quite a few good advantageous properties. Okay. Now, when it comes to historical use of aluminum in auto industry, somewhere in 75s and 80s, they were first introduced as material for heat exchangers. Then 85 to 90, it's their use as wheels. Okay. Then for making of cylinder heads, cylinder blocks. Okay, subsequently even cylinder blocks were made by using aluminum alloys. Then the hoods of the autos, they were converted from steel to aluminum, and doors and body in white. Okay, this was the next step. So gradually from 1975 to 2000, you can see all these different components, how they have replaced the conventional ferrous alloys, and thereby reduction in weight has helped in achieving the goals as far as auto sport vehicles are concerned. Uh, all these aluminum alloys, their classification, uh, these aluminum alloys can be classified into wrought alloys or cast aluminum alloys. Those which can be made by casting, and those which can be shaped by using different forming processes, that is rolling, extrusion, forging, etc. So these wrought aluminum alloys can be classified into non-heat treatable and heat treatable alloys. Now, when we say non-heat treatable and heat treatable alloys, please try to remember that these heat treatable alloys, which can be subjected to what is known as precipitation hardening. There is tremendous increase in mechanical properties when you subject the aluminum alloys to precipitation hardening. So when we say heat treatable, it is basically precipitation hardening. So we have certain wrought aluminum alloys which can be shaped by using different forming processes, which includes aluminum copper alloys, aluminum magnesium silicon alloys, aluminum zinc magnesium alloys, which are wrought aluminum alloys. They can be shaped by different forming processes. Likewise, cast aluminum alloys can be classified into non-heat treatable and heat treatable. So it's always good to use these heat treatable grades, because they they not only get cast into different shapes, complicated shapes like those in cylinder heads and cylinder blocks, but then subsequently they can be heat treated to enhance their strength. Okay, so of course these cast heat treatable alloys, they can be cast in conventional sand casting and die casting. So these are the alloys, heat treatable wrought alloys, heat treatable cast aluminum alloys, both in sand casting and die casting, which are most widely used in, you can say, auto industry. Um, Now let's have a look at this particular slide, wherein it is mentioned as to what are the different parts of the frame and the body in white that are made by using aluminum alloys. So the one which is in green is the 600 series. Okay, the one which is in blue is basically the 500 series, and the one which is in the red, okay, is the 700 series. Uh, So you can see the parts here: bulkhead, pillars, roof, trunk lid, okay, the roof pillars, body side, the doors, side impact beams, okay, front side members, bonnet, and front fender. So in conventional autos, you can see how to a great extent, most of these parts which are earlier produced by using steel have now been, can now be replaced by aluminum alloys, helping in weight reduction. We are not at all compromising as far as the safety of the vehicle is concerned. Okay, the mechanical properties are concerned, but these new aluminum alloys, aluminum, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, magnesium, etc. These alloys have almost the same strength as the conventional steel, and the tremendous reduction in weight, as we can see. Okay, so we'll go further. These are the steels, as I mentioned, 500 series. Okay, and their characteristics I have mentioned here, okay, which I think you can go through once these PowerPoint presentations are shared, and wherein all you can use these materials. Okay. For example, body panels, bonnets, roofs, brake pistons, etc., etc. Okay, and the 600 series, okay, their characteristics and the use of these 600 series aluminum alloys, which is aluminum, magnesium, silicon alloys in different auto components, and the 700 series, which is aluminum, zinc, magnesium alloys, okay, and their applications. So aluminum has greatly replaced, as you can see, steels in auto industry and auto sports industry, and helped in weight reduction. Okay, so these different alloys, as I mentioned, they are manufactured by rolling, for example, the plates, the sheets, the foils, the welded tubes in making parts like axle cradles, the wheels, etc. So very important parts of auto industries. Okay, auto sport industry. They can also be made by extrusion. Okay, these are all extruded parts. Okay, so we have a bracket here. Okay, and also the bumper beam, which are all made up of aluminum alloys. Okay, helping weight reduction. Okay, now we come to the third important material which is under consideration, that is composites. And these composites are of different types, but we are concentrating only on the polymer composites. Uh, we have either carbon fiber, glass fiber, aramid fiber, and ceramic fiber, of which the first three are important. Again, the advantage of using composite material is they are rigid with high strength to weight ratio, good stiffness, good corrosion resistance, ease of manufacturing complex parts, and the drawbacks are high material to processing cost, poor fabrication properties, okay, difficult to model over larger lengths, high cost of fillers, that is either carbon fiber or glass fiber or aramid fiber. They are very costly, making the material costly, and they're difficult to repair, not as easy as steels when it comes to repairing is concerned. Okay. Now, what is a composite? A composite is a homogeneous mixture created by synthetic assembly of two materials, two basic materials, of which one is reinforcing material called as fiber and other is binding material called as matrix. Okay. And these characteristics of composites, in addition to the advantageous properties, rigid with high strength to weight ratio, good electrical resistance, resistance to chemical and weather is high, uh, good stiffness and good corrosion resistance. Okay. Now I mentioned that the material composite is made up of two material. One is matrix and the other one is fiber. So what are the matrix materials? Thermoset plastics and polymers, thermoplastics, and it can be metals or ceramics. Thermosets are mainly used as matrix materials where good mechanical properties are required. For example, the epoxy thermosets. Thermoplastics, good impact properties, but slightly lower mechanical behavior as compared to thermosets. PPS and PA are the thermoplastic materials. And when we use metals and ceramics as matrix, these are for high temperature applications. Okay. Wherever these are not pertaining to vehicles as on today, but in future, maybe we will be using metal matrix and ceramic matrix materials for making engine parts also. Okay. Which is basically a high temperature application. And when it comes to fibers, we have the carbon fiber, the glass fiber, and aramid fiber. Okay, carbon fiber have high performance but expensive. Glass, moderate tensile strength but low tensile modulus. Aramids, excellent tensile properties and energy absorption, bad resistance in compression, bad adhesion in polymer matrix. They don't adhere as strongly as carbon and glass. Okay. And then lastly, ceramic fibers. Okay. Uh, good stability with temperature. That is the advantage of ceramic fibers. Now, why do you use composite materials? Basically to improve fuel efficiency by reducing weight, to improve safety and crash worthiness, to enhance styling and part consolidation, and to provide aerodynamic designs. So that's why composites have become more and more important when it comes to sports vehicle. So you can see some of the parts that have been made by using different types of composite. So this is carbon fiber, okay, floor panel and side frame, okay. And this is a monocoque structure of made by carbon fiber composites. Now these are parts made by aramid composite composites. For example, the clutch and all the different protective wears. For example, the body wear, the gloves and the helmets. They're all made by using aramid composite composites. Okay. Aramid polymer composite. Now, this is a slide which totally explains the three important types of composites that are used for making frames. That is glass fiber, aramid fiber, or Kelvar fiber. Both mean the same. And then the carbon fiber, which are of different types, which you can see here. E type and S type of glass fiber, low modulus, intermediate modulus, and high modulus aramid fibers. And when it comes to carbon fibers, we have high strength, standard modulus, intermediate modulus, high modulus, and ultra high strength, and their densities and properties. So you can see that as compared to glass, okay, whose density is almost near to that of aluminum. You have these glass fiber polymers, sorry, composites, whose density is far lesser, but at the same time, their mechanical properties are far better as compared to glass fiber polymers. And this is a list of applications which you can go through, and you can see that most of the parts which are earlier made by using steels and then by using aluminum alloys can now be made by using composite materials, and with better results when it comes to weight as well as mechanical properties. So this has been the trend. Okay, use of more and more use of composite materials. We'll go further. This is one very interesting picture wherein this is Henry Ford the first, and one of the models that was created in the year 1941 called as Soybean was the first vehicle wherein fiber reinforced polymers were used for making the body, and he's using a sledgehammer to thrash this body and beat it down. Of course, he uh, he has tried to show that they're strong and tough. Okay, so 1941, as early as 1941, and from then onwards to the present day, you can see how everywhere, okay, all these different materials, they are all made up of fiber reinforced plastics and polymers. Okay, everywhere we are using these composite materials and plastics and polymers. Okay, this is the Indian experience of use of uh, fiber reinforced polymers or composites, as we say it. And this is an Italian automobile wherein composites are used for all these different parts. Okay, but the trend is not using only one single material, but we uh, have this concept of multi-material usage in making car bodies. Okay, so steels, aluminum alloys, magnesium alloys, and composites. Okay, they're all used depending upon um the formability. Okay, the 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 ductility and the formability and the strength. Okay, we use different materials, and there is this concept of multi-material use in making the body. Okay, car body. So the futuristic directions. Okay, body side uh, made up of aluminum alloys. Underbody, you use either aluminum structure or uh, advanced high-speed steels or ultra advanced high-speed steels or composite materials. And then closure panels made up of aluminum 6000 series or 500 or 600 alloys or carbon fiber, and inner structure made up of cast magnesium alloys, etc. So these are the futuristic trends as far as the frames and the chassis and the body in white of vehicles are concerned, and similarly auto sports vehicles. Uh, Now let me also speak something about, after discussing frames and chassis of vehicles, let me also speak something about some of the other parts of automobiles that are made up of cast iron, steel, aluminum alloys, and other materials. So that would be the third part of my presentation. Let us go through these slides quickly. So this is an exploded view of engine. Okay, so you can see different parts here. The main parts being the cylinder block and the cylinder head and the exhaust manifold and the inlet manifold, etc. It's not that these are the only parts. We have ample different parts that are used in auto industry. So now this is a slide which tells us as to what are the different parts and what is the material that is used for making these parts. Okay, cylinder block, earlier gray cast iron, but now aluminum alloys. And the trends, new trends are ductile iron, ADCI and ACGCI, that is austempered ductile cast iron and austempered compact graphite cast iron. Cylinder head, again same, gray cast iron and aluminum alloys which were used conventionally, but now the trend is use of aluminum alloys and magnesium alloys. Cylinder head made up of magnesium alloys, further reduction in weight. Piston, uh, even now we use more of aluminum alloys for making pistons, but Very interestingly, the trend is again shifting back to steels. Okay, piston rings, alloy cast iron, connecting rod. Um, it's a carbon steel of grade 30C8. The trend is to use 370S6 steel, which is a microalloyed steel. Crankshafts, alloy steel of category 37C15 or 38MnVS6. But the trend is to use, very interestingly, ductile iron. Okay, and austempered ductile cast iron and austempered compact graphite iron. Flywheels, gray cast iron, there is no change. Camshaft, uh, carbon steel to ductile iron, manifolds. Okay, and all these details. Okay, you can go through these slides. And all these other important materials, caskets and valves and exhaust manifolds and piston rings. What are the kind of materials that are used? Okay, this will give you an idea as to what kind of materials are used for different auto components. Okay, when it comes to castings, as I already mentioned earlier in the slide, conventionally we are using gray cast iron and aluminum silicon alloys. And the features of these materials were that gray cast iron is very good castability, of course, but low strength. Aluminum silicon alloys, lightweight was the feature. But the present trends are the use of magnesium-based alloys, ductile iron, SG iron, that is SG iron, compacted graphite cast iron, austempered ductile iron and austempered compact graphite iron, wherein the feature is either lightweight or high strength. When it is both lightweight and high strength, we can reduce. In case of lightweight, of course, the weight gets reduced uh, easily. And if you are using high strength alloys, we can reduce the wall thickness, thereby reducing the weight. Okay. So these are some of the slides showing the microstructure of gray cast iron, compact graphite iron, and ductile iron, that is SG iron, wherein the carbon, or sorry, the graphite is spheroidal. Okay, and their properties. Okay, so you can see that as compared to gray cast iron, ductile cast iron, that is SG iron, the tensile strength is as high as 3 times. Okay, higher elastic modulus, elongation, pretty good elongation, and all these important properties. So that's why the trend of cast irons is use of what are known as uh, SG iron or ductile cast iron. These are some of the other parts which are made by using ductile cast iron. Okay. So we have suspension arms, exhaust manifolds, which are used by making ductile cast irons. Okay. Ferritic ductile cast iron with all these important properties, and copper alloyed perlitic grades are other materials that can be used for making these alloys, and austempered ductile cast iron. Okay, so these are, as I mentioned, with better mechanical properties, we can reduce the section thickness here. Okay, weight reduction. Crankshaft, another important component when it comes to engineering, sorry, important auto component. And these are the candidate materials for making crankshafts. We can see that these are all medium carbon steels. Okay, not low carbon steels, but medium carbon steels. And the importance of using medium carbon steels is that these medium carbon steels can be surface hardened by either induction hardening or flame hardening. Now, these crankshafts are subjected to a lot of surface wear and tear. Okay, so the surface hardness is very much important, but at the same time, the core has to be tough. The inner part of the crankshaft has to be tough. It has to withstand shocks and vibrations. So therefore, these crankshafts are surface hardened, and for surface hardening, we can't use mild steels. Mild steels are not hardenable grades, and that's why we use medium carbon steels. So whether it is low carbon, sorry, plain carbon, or whether it is alloy steel, depending upon the strength requirements. We invariably use all these alloy steels which have medium carbon, and therefore they can be surface hardened for improving the surface properties. Okay. Now, another trend as far as auto industry is concerned, or engine is concerned, is use of um, aluminum composite engines. Okay. This slide has come slightly earlier. So uh, one of the uh, composite materials is aluminum composite material, and there's a trend of using aluminum composite nowadays for further reduction in weight in sports vehicles. Okay. These are some of the cast aluminum products which are used in auto industries and auto sports industries for weight reduction. You can go through these parts. Pistons, okay, I already mentioned conventionally used for making pistons is aluminum alloys, and these are the different grades of aluminum alloys that are used for making pistons. So these are silicon copper alloys which can be subjected to precipitation hardening. Copper and magnesium both. So when you add silicon, castability increases, and by using copper and magnesium, the precipitation hardening properties are enhanced, and they can be precipitation hardened for withstanding whatever the strength properties that are required in pistons. Then another important part that you have to take into consideration is the suspension system. So all these teams that are taking part in different types of essay competitions, you are required to look into the suspension system. And a suspension system consists of all these different parts: tires, shock absorbers, struts, arms, bars, linkages, etc., etc. Okay. So the objectives of a suspension system is to prevent shocks, safeguard the occupants, and stabilize the vehicle. And these are the important parts that I have already mentioned here. Okay. So amongst all these parts, the shock absorbers, okay, are the most important, and the materials that are used for making these different springs, okay, an important part of the suspension system are either alloy steels or plain carbon steels with carbon content between 0.5 to 0.95, cobalt nickel steels, copper based alloys, copper beryllium alloys. These are called as beryllium bronzes, and the conventional brass, nickel based alloys, wherein we use either Hestalloy, Inconel, or Nimonel, stainless steels of the grade 177 precipitation hardenable steel, and these are austenitic stainless steels, titanium alloys, and now the trend for using composites. So even these springs can be made up of glass fiber or carbon fiber composites. So this is the list of materials used for suspension systems, and this of course is the current trend for weight reduction. Okay. Wheels, the wheels were earlier of course made up of steels, but these have been replaced by use of magnesium alloys and aluminum alloys. For regular cars we use aluminum alloy wheels, but for sport cars the trend is for using magnesium alloys. Okay. Then the tire is made up of the rubber of course, but this is enforced by using, it's again a composite material which is enforced by using different cords and tire carcass, wherein all these different materials are used. Okay. So this is the set of materials that are used for making wheels and tires. Okay. So wheels and tires, they support the vehicle load, total load, provide cushioning against shocks, transmit traveling and braking force to the roads, and provide cornering power and smooth steering. That's why we use these wheels and tires. Of course, not a part of my presentation, but the materials that are used for making wheels and tires. Okay. I now come to the plastics, polymers, and elastomers that are used for making different parts in automobiles. As far as polymers are concerned, this is the list of polymers: polyurethanes, polyvinyl chlorides. Okay. Uh, this is the list of applications for you know, for all these polymer materials. Okay, you can go through this particular list. Okay, and another list of polymer applications: trim panels, impact absorbers, radio housing, and all these parts, and the material that is used for making these parts. Okay, so the third list.
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We are almost coming to the end. I've got some last few slides left.
Okay.
So you can see that in a big way, polymer materials, plastics and polymer, high strength plastics and polymers. This is the material. These are the types of high strength plastics and polymers, and these are the applications. Okay. Of course, these high strength plastics and polymers have helped in weight reduction to a great extent, and of course, very pleasing finish, colors, pleasing colors that can be imparted in all these plastics and polymers. Okay, so you can see the finish here and all these different applications. One of the important application of elastomers is this sheet belt. Okay, so this sheet belt is made up of an elastomer. These are some other parts. Okay, the bumper and condenser lens made up of composite materials. Bio materials are going to become important trend in auto industry, and we have this particular information as to how biofuels, biochemicals, and biomaterials will come into fore between years 2010 and 2030. The growth is expected to be around 25%. Okay, so all these biomaterials which are seen here are conventionally used in this Mercedes-Benz. Okay. Let me now come to the conclusion part of this presentation. So, so what is the trend as far as materials is concerned? Lightweight and high strength. Okay, so more and more use of aluminum, magnesium, composites, plastics, polymers, and high strength ferrous alloys. That is, instead of gray cast iron, ductile iron, and compacted graphite iron, etc., etc. So the trend is to use high strength ferrous alloys and lightweight materials, as in case of non-ferrous, plastics, polymers, and composites. Okay, so this trend, you can see the use of steel and iron has been reduced to a great extent by the year 2010, and we are using more and more of these other materials. Okay, so definitely weight reduction because of all these materials. Other motivation for change in materials is reduction in cost and weight. Okay, we are reducing cost and weight. So all these different materials, how they are reducing the weight, but at the same time the cost, there is increase in cost of these materials. Okay, so we have to take into consideration the increase in cost when it comes to use of composite materials. Okay, and the main challenge in the coming days, the use of multi-material concept. Okay, so initially we had only steel unibody, but there are different trends which we can see here. Use of aluminum frameworks and advanced aluminum frameworks, then use of better quality steel materials, composites, and advanced composites. So this is the trend. Okay, So I end this presentation now, and